Hello, my friends. As an independent artist, your head might be spinning a little bit with recent news about Spotify, Taylor Swift. If you belong to BMI as a songwriter, a US songwriter, you might even be like, what does this mean now that they're a for profit performing rights organization? There's so many things. And I was like, okay, what should I cover? Well, the Spotify thing, I think, is getting a lot of attention from all of the music business gurus out there. So I want to talk a little bit about the Taylor Swift thing. I already was thinking, people might not understand why she's re recording. I've seen people make comments like, I like the other version better. Why try to redo music when it was already great? This comes down to master recording ownership. I did a video a while back on the importance of understanding the two different types of copyright, and this is exactly why Taylor Swift is re recording her songs. It's because she does not have the master recording ownership of her previous releases. Those were sold to a record label. Traditional major record deals have always leaned away from favor of the artist. And this is a reality that for decades, creators, musicians, independent artists, they really did not have access to the masses. And so they would sign away basically their rights in the master recording. So, just a brief recap of the two different copyrights that I mentioned in that previous video. There's the underlying composition, your song, your lyrics, your melody, and it has nothing to do with the sound recording. It's just this is the song, lyrics and melody. Doesn't even matter if we count the chords or not because you can't protect a chord progression, which is why you hear songs with the exact same chord progression over and over and over. There's no protection of the actual chord progression. But once you go to the studio and you have created a sound recording, you are now creating a second type of protected work. And if you are in a recording agreement with a record label, usually this is what would happen. This was a very common scenario. The record label is investing in the production of that recording. They, in turn, will say, okay, independent artist, well, you're not independent because you're now signed to a record label. And this was mostly with major labels, they would have this deal. We're investing all of this money in you. You're going to pay us back. So when you hear someone say, oh, it was a $500,000 label deal or $1 million label deal, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It sounds like the artist is getting $1 million. No, what that means is this is how much the record label is planning on investing in you. And depending on the deal, it could mean we're investing in 5 albums over a 10-year period or something like that, with the total dollar amount being 1 million. But guess what? You, as the artist, you are going to be paying us back. Yes, you, the artist, pay back that $1 million with the revenue that is generated from your album sales and such. Now, when the internet came around, the record labels were like, oh my gosh, we're losing all of this income. That's when they created the 360 deals and they were making it sound like it was this really great artist friendly. It was a win-win for everybody when actuality it was really horrible for artists. All it means is that now the record label was saying, we are going to tap into every income source that you have, including your touring, your merchandise, everything, where before it was just basically record sales. And then certain, mechanical royalties with their publishing company and so forth. 360 deals are not artist friendly. They just mean that the record label is getting a piece of every single pie. Okay, but in a nutshell, back to the master recording, the artist is paying this back. But traditionally, even after the artist finishes paying back this monumental debt, the record label would still own the master recording. What? I mean, this is like you buy a house. I mean, most of us have to get a mortgage to buy a house because we don't have $500,000 sitting in our bank account. So we go to the bank and say, lend me $500,000 so I can buy this house. And it takes us 30 years to pay off. I mean, that's a long time to be in debt. But guess what? When we're done paying it off, we own the house and any equity that was accumulated because of the market. We now have that equity, we own it. Not so with record deals. It's really complex and it really is based on the contract that's agreed upon with the artist and the record label. But traditionally and very typically, the artist would pay it back and not own the master recording. So this is what happened with Taylor Swift. She did not own those master recordings. So she signed with a new record label and re-recorded her own compositions, which she owns. She owns the underlying composition, just not the sound recording. So what she's now doing and has been doing is making her own version so that she now owns those master recordings. And she signed with a new record label and they must have had some kind of something in her contract. Someone like Taylor Swift, she has that type of leverage where she can say, yeah, I will sign with you, but I want to own these masters after all of the expenses are recouped. Or she might even say, I don't need your money. I just need your label, distribution, and your name. That's it. So I don't know what kind of deal she has. I think it's Republic that she signed with now. I don't know what the deal is, but obviously she is going to own these master recordings. So that what's in the news right now is people are kind of freaking out saying she's ruining it for everybody because the three major labels are saying, well, now we're going to extend the length of time before you can re-record your songs so that we don't have Taylor Swift happening again. Okay, why do we care about this? Well, that's my big question. You shouldn't care about it. It doesn't matter because it's these three major labels, Sony, Universal, who's the other one? I can't remember. They've always had these types of clauses in their contracts. Most record labels do, where they don't want you signing with another record label within a certain amount of time. They don't want you. Basically, they're saying, we're investing all this money in you. And if you reap any benefits from the stuff that we invest in, all of the music we create with you, and all of our marketing that we invest in you, we want to be able to hold that over your head so that we're getting money as well for a certain amount of time. And so, anyway, they've always had this type of a clause. You can't recreate your own songs. You can't re-record. You can't work with other record labels. You can't work with other producers within a certain amount of time after our contract is over. So all that these three major labels are saying is we're going to extend the amount of time before you can recreate to even 30 years. Why is this not a problem with you for us as independent artists? Well, most likely you're not going to be signing a deal with one of these three major labels. The other reason why is if you do sign a deal or you're presented a deal with one of these three major labels, you don't have to sign it. Walk away. Let's say that it's a small record label that wants to sign a deal with you and it feels mutually beneficial. Most likely they're not going to have that type of clause because your original agreement is going to say, I own the masters when I'm done paying for it. See what I'm saying? This really isn't anything that you should be worried about. So rest easy. Just make sure that if you're signing any agreement with a record label or a distributor or a producer or a sync agent or anything, that you're just really paying attention to the details of the master recording ownership. Who owns it? Who has the rights? You don't want to be giving up ownership. You can pass rights to certain organizations. That's something that you legally have to do if you want them to be doing the marketing or licensing. You're giving them the right to make negotiations and so forth or to use the recording, but you don't want to give up your absolute ownership rights. Those are something you want to just hang on to forever. ever. And again, we're just talking about the master recording rights. Your rights as a songwriter, those are a different, separate thing, and you really never want to give those away unless you're just destitute and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I have this song that perhaps Garth Brooks is going to cut, and the publishing company is offering a buyout for it, and it's like $1 million. And you're like, yeah, I want $1 million now. Even though if you hang on to it and it's a hit, the dollar figure will be greater over time and even after you die. So don't give away your rights as a songwriter, okay? That's what I'm saying. That was really rambly today. I'm sorry about that. And I forgot to even introduce myself. My name is Becky. This is the Empowered Indie Artists YouTube channel and podcast. I hope this little ramble session was somewhat clarifying to help you make some sense and also to help you, to put your mind at ease about some of this stuff. I'm going to go into probably the BMI issue in the next video just because I think that's not getting covered as much in the news as everything else. And I'm still not even sure how to feel about it, so I need to do some research on it. But thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.